Hey, this is Bailey,
And I'm Timothy.
and welcome to What Sleep Podcast.
Let's get right into it.
Woo.
All right. Before we get into this episode, we do have some awesome new merch in the store. So we'll definitely be sure to check that out at teespring.com/stores/whatsleep. So we got some awesome new hoodies and stuff on there for you guys. Definitely be sure to check that out and whatnot. Got many different designs and everything. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
Have a lot of orders on the mugs already, which, that's cool.
To be fair, this is called What Sleep.
Yeah, definitely need to put like your coffee or tea or whatever.
100%. I want to get the sweater so bad, the purple sweater. Looks super cozy, coupled with a What Sleep mug. Oh my god!
I mean, I'm just saying.
Like I got this hoodie, which is probably just gonna end up being my sweater for that, but I need to get the mug.
A friend of ours actually mentioned that she was gonna buy one of the die cut stickers and put it on her little hydro flask.
Heck yeah, I need to do that too. I've got two like thermos things that I need to sticker up with some What Sleep merch.
So yeah, definitely be sure to check that out. Greatly appreciate it. If you do decide to purchase anything and you guys do get some really nice swag,
please send us some pictures.
Oh yeah, if you definitely buy something, be sure to send pictures of you wearing it, and we'll definitely
we'll post that if you would like us to. I would like to post your pretty little faces in our merch.
Exactly. So yeah, that's really all the news I got for you to start this episode off. So with that, let's just get right on into Mr. John Christie.
Oh snap!
If you remember, he was mentioned in my last case with Timothy Evans.
I feel very briefly, and I really want some more information on that man.
Well, I have a wealth of knowledge for you on this guy.
Let me hear it.
Forewarning, this may be split up into maybe a two-parter, just because there's so much on this guy.
Good.
So just be forewarned. There's a lot of information to keep track of. So to start it off with, we'll go ahead and talk about his early life. He was actually raised in Halifax, then in the West Riding of Yorkshire. Christie was abused by his father and dominated by his mother and sisters. So not very...
Not a good childhood.
Not a good childhood. At the age of 8, Christie was witness to the open coffin of his grandfather.
Yeah.
So,
it happens.
It happens. But, being at that kind of an age, going to like an open coffin.
Well, I went to an open coffin.
I feel like it's just very jarring for an 8-year-old.
Well, you got to learn about death sometimes. I went to a funeral when I was a kid for my great-grandmother. And it was open coffin.
First open coffin thing I went to was like a few weeks ago. So
yeah,
that was weird.
It can be jarring. I feel like it's worse when you know what death is and you know that this is the last time you're gonna see somebody. Then but I think as a kid I never really I
think it was weird because I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah.
So, but anyways. But one thing Christie did, he did win a scholarship to Halifax Secondary School when he was 11.
Oh, okay.
So smart little cookie.
Yeah.
He excelled particularly at mathematics and algebra and was skilled at detailed work. It was later found he had an IQ of 128.
Did he though? Or did he say that?
I mean, this was in the files. So he did sing in the choir and became a scout, but he was unpopular with his fellow pupils.
So all right. I'm sorry. I know you're going to get into it, but how did he become what I feel is like a deadbeat on a first floor apartment building serial killer? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, first things first, the common thing with, I guess, the nature versus nurture thing is that, he wasn't exactly taken care of at home. He didn't have good role models. Mm-hmm. He was not popular in school. So, he just never really had a positive influence in his life, I feel like.
Yeah.
But again, that kind of goes with the nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah. for different
seeing some of the
brains, I
things
guess.
he's done, I feel like it leans into the nature thing, but the whole nurture thing, it definitely did not help him out.
Yeah.
We'll get more into it later on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was not popular with his fellow pupils, anything like that. He was bullied. And upon leaving school in 1913, Christie became an assistant movie projectionist at a movie theater.
Nice.
So pretty cool, I
Good
guess.
job.
Free movies.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I feel like it'd be really boring though, especially like if you're in the same movie all day.
Use your phone.
This is 1913.
Oh, that's fair.
Like, what do they got?
Read a book.
That's probably what he did. By the time he reached puberty, he already associated sex with death. Does it sound familiar to anybody you might have heard about?
Yes, who?
Mr. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Was it Jeffrey Dahmer?
It was Jeffrey Dahmer.
I thought it was the co-ed killer.
Him too.
Ed Kemper. That's his name.
Ed Kemper too.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking Ed Kemper, but yeah, I guess both of them.
Yeah, he already associated sex with death, dominance and violent aggression, rendering him impotent unless in complete control.
Ooh.
So
that's intense.
Yeah. His first attempts at sex were failures, branding him as, quote, Reggie No Dick.
No!
And can't do it, Christie. Yeah, throughout adolescence. So, like I said, he had no positive influence in his life. So
I'm sorry for laughing.
You're part of the problem.
You were laughing too.
I mean, it's because it's funny.
That's horrible.
He was also a hypochondriac and hysteric, and often exaggerated or feigned illness as a ploy to get attention.
Yeah.
Christie enlisted as a signalman in World War I, during which he was hospitalized after a mustard gas attack.
Yeah, I can guess. I think what a signalman is.
Yeah.
Not specific.
It's not like
radiologist.
Anyways.
Hey Timothy, what's a radiologist?
Don't talk to me. But he did claim to have been blinded by the mustard gas attack, which we all know was a lie. No record of his supposed blindness exists.
Yeah.
In 10 Rellington Place, author Ludovic Kennedy wrote that Christie exaggerated his blindness as well as the 3-year period afterward in which he was a mute.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's just kind of a basket case, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is all happening during the time that Carl Tanzler was active, too. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
So, and I've noticed, like, around, like the pre-World War, like,
1900s.
Yeah, like the super early 1900s, when like a lot of serial killers were starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
What happened?
I don't know, man. But craziness.
Huh.
Christie did get married, and he married 22-year-old Ethel Waddington from Sheffield on the 10th of May, 1920.
Congratulations.
But it was a dysfunctional union, as Christie was impotent with her and frequented prostitutes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but why, if you couldn't make your wife happy, why would you try to make prostitutes happy? But then I realized he probably paid them to dominate them in ways they probably, full control situations.
To be fair, people don't pay for prostitutes to make them happy.
Well, yes, but also, you know what I mean? Like he couldn't attack his wife the way that he probably attacked prostitutes.
Yeah, like he probably couldn't get what he wanted out of it.
That's really depressing.
But here's the thing. Friends and neighbors gossiped that she stayed with him out of fear.
I would probably say the same.
They did end up separating after 4 years when Christie moved to London and Ethel lived with relatives.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad she got out of that.
She did get out of it after probably 4 very miserable years. It is what it is. She got out of life. So Christie did have a criminal career very early on.
Of course.
Over the next decade, Christie was convicted for many petty criminal offenses, including 3 months imprisonment for stealing postal orders while working as a postman on April 12th, 1921, 9 months in, I'm going to mess this up, Uxbridge Jail in September 1924 for theft, 6 months hard labor for assaulting a prostitute with whom he was living in Battersea in May 1929, and 3 months imprisonment in 1933 for stealing a car from a priest who had befriended him.
Oh.
So, he was just, I feel like, getting out his frustrations by committing crimes a little bit, and also just kind of getting that attention he probably wanted. Christie and his ex-wife reconciled after his release in November 1933.
No, don't
He did
go
not
back.
reform, however. He continued to seek out prostitutes to relive his increasingly violent sexual urges.
I'm shocked.
Which included necrophilia.
Oh.
So
wait. So he killed the prostitutes?
I mean, he beat them up. He probably killed them.
Necrophilia.
Which we'll get into.
Okay. Okay.
In December 1938, Christie and his wife moved into the ground floor apartment of 10 Rillington Place.
No.
In the Ladbroke Grove neighborhood of Notting Hill. On the outbreak of World War II, he applied to join the police force and was accepted and was assigned to Harrow Road Police Station. Christie began an affair with a woman working at the police station whose husband was a serving soldier.
Oh, no.
That's real Jody right there. The relationship lasted until December 1943 when he resigned. The husband caught them in bed and beat Christie practically to death.
Good.
So.
Good. I have no sympathy.
No sympathy whatsoever. But shortly after that, we do start getting into when Christie, commits his first murder.
Do you think he liked the beating enough and he was like, what if I did this to other people?
Well, I don't think he enjoyed it, but he was probably like, I wonder if I do this to other people, if it'll, make me feel empowered.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Ugh.
The first person Christie admitted to killing was Ruth First, whom he impulsively strangled during sex in August of 1943. Impulsively. In October 1944, he murdered a work colleague, Muriel Amelia Eady, by promising to cure her bronchitis with a, quote, special mixture he had concocted.
Bro.
Using domestic gas, which contained carbon monoxide that would render a person unconscious. Once Eady was knocked out.
This is where it began. He was like, I can cure your ailments. Mm-hmm. Get out of here, Christie. Oh, my God.
But once Eady was knocked out, Christie choked her to death and raped her post-mortem. Christie buried both First and Eady in the building's communal garden. Yeah.
Why?
He's just a sick person, man. That's all it is. Just absolutely disgusting human being.
Yeah. No kidding.
Now we'll get into the part where the case of Timothy Evans and Mr. John Christie start coinciding.
I feel so bad for Mr. Evans.
Yeah. Well,
he didn't deserve that.
He didn't, but he also didn't help his own case.
It wasn't his fault.
I know it wasn't, but he also admitted to doing it.
Yeah, because he probably had that whole kind of the opposite of, what's that? I think it's called patricide, where the father of a family. Yeah, patricide, where the father of the whole family kills the whole family because he feels like he can't succeed enough to take care of them, so he kills everybody and then himself. I feel like it was kind of the opposite of that, where his whole family died, so he's like, well, I might as well die because I didn't help,
maybe I
wasn't there for them, kind of thing. That's how I felt about it.
That's a possibility.
I feel like that's why he did it,
but now we'll go ahead and get into the murders of Beryl and Geraldine Evans.
Okay, let's do it.
Timothy Evans and his pregnant wife Beryl moved into the top floor flat of 10 Rillington Place in April of 1948. On October 10th, Beryl gave birth to a daughter whom they named Geraldine. In November of 1949, Beryl Evans found out she was pregnant again and feared they could not afford another child.
Yeah.
Evans later told police that Christie promised the couple he could abort the baby.
I finally remembered that name from last week when you were talking about this case, when you said Geraldine. There was a name that in French they say it a little bit different. It's Genevieve.
Oh, Genevieve.
Yeah, but in French they say Genevieve. Which is super pretty.
It is. I like that.
Anyway.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Kennedy writes that on November 8th, Christie used his, quote, special gas to incapacitate Beryl, whom he then strangled and then raped post-mortem as well. When Evans returned from work that night, Christie told him that Beryl had died during the procedure and that they had to hide the body. Abortion was illegal in England at the time.
Yeah. This is so depressing.
It is. It really is. And there's just so much. Christie then convinced Evans to stay with a relative in Wales and leave Geraldine in his care. Evans later said he returned to the apartment several times to ask about Geraldine, but Christie had refused to let him see her.
Yeah, because she died.
Because he
killed her.
Yes, exactly. On November 30th of 1949, Evans went to the police in Methier, Tifdale, and said he had accidentally killed Beryl by giving her something contained in a bottle that a man had given him to help abort her unborn baby.
Yeah.
And then disposing of her body in a sewer drain. He told the police that after arranging for Geraldine to be looked after, he had gone to Wales. When police examined the drain outside the front of the building, however, they found nothing and furthermore discovered that the manhole cover required the combined strength of all 3 officers in order to remove it.
Which should have exonerated him from their suspicions in the first place, but...
Yeah, well, when re-questioned, Evans said that Christie had offered to provide an abortion for Beryl. Evans had returned home from work on November 8th to find Beryl dead. He said Christie then disposed of the body and made arrangements for some people to look after Geraldine while Evans lay low. During a search of 10 Rillington Place on December 2nd of 1949, the police found the bodies of Beryl and Geraldine Evans hidden in the wash house and the back garden. Both had been strangled, and when Evans was shown the clothing taken from the bodies of his wife and child, he also asked whether he was responsible for their deaths.
Yeah.
This was, according to Evans' statement, the first occasion in which he was informed that his baby daughter had been killed. Evans, according to Kennedy, said, yes. He then confessed to having strangled Beryl during an argument over debts and strangling Geraldine 2 days later, after which he left for Wales.
But he didn't.
As we come to find out.
Yeah.
But, like I said, he did not help his case.
Tell me about Christie. Tell me what he did.
We'll get there. So this confession, along with other contradictory statements from Evans made during the police interrogation, is often cited as proof of his guilt. Although Kennedy says his interrogation was worded by investigating officers and carried out over the course of late evening and early morning hours to the physical and emotional detriment of the accused.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And of course, Christie was a key witness for the prosecution and was instrumental in Evans being found guilty 2 days later. Which, we know how that...
is ridiculous
we know
in
how
the
that
first
ended,
place. But yeah.
I just think it's crazy that the jury took only 40 minutes to...
40 minutes, and they put the guy who actually murdered them as a key witness.
Yep.
And they never even thought twice because it was easy to get a confession out of this guy. That's what... It's the power of suggestion. It's the framing. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and, as we know from my last case with Timothy Evans... He was convicted, failed an appeal on February 20th, and he was hanged on March 9th of 1950. Now, after this, did not slow Christie down whatsoever.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure he was all too happy to be a key witness and was too happy when...
100% he's like, I totally got away with this.
Yeah.
Like, easy. So.
I hate this guy.
But after the conviction of Timothy Evans, Christie was fired from his job from the Post Office Savings Bank, which he had held for the previous 4 years, due to the disclosure of his previous criminal offenses at Evans's trial. He sank into deep depression and lost 28 pounds. He remained unemployed until August of 1950, when he found a clerical position with British Road Transport Services.
Okay.
He stayed there until December 6th of 1952, when he suddenly resigned. Christie claimed to his boss and to his neighbors that he had found a job with better prospects in Sheffield and that he would be leaving London to move there with his wife early in the new year.
Okay.
When his wife disappeared, he claimed she had already moved and that he would be following on soon.
I mean, not suspicious in and of itself, but you killed her. So.
I mean, knowing what we know in hindsight, yes. Like, that should have been a huge red flag.
Yeah.
But, at the time, it was probably like, whatever.
Yeah, no, 100%. She moved ahead. Okay.
But Christie murdered his wife in bed on the morning of December 14th, 1952.
In their bed?
Yep.
Bro. All right. Okay. When I say I want to die in my sleep, I don't mean like I want to wake up to somebody killing me. I mean, I want to drift off in my sleep.
Well.
I would be so mad if I was sleeping, taking a nap, because I love sleep. Let me tell you. I love sleep. And if I was taking a nap, if I was in the middle of sleeping in the middle of the night and somebody woke me up to kill me, I'd be pissed.
I mean, yeah.
I would be so mad.
Like, really? You're going to do this now?
Right now? I'm so happy where I am right now, but you're going to do it right now? Anyway.
Well, she was last seen alive 2 days prior. And the day after he murdered his wife, he altered the date of a letter she had written on the 10th to the 15th, explaining that Ethel had no envelope, so he sent the letter from work.
Mm.
On December 16th, sure. Right? Sure. He took his wife's wedding ring to a jewelry shop and sold it.
For what purpose? She moved on ahead to London.
He was getting her a nice, fancy new one.
Okay.
A week after that, he sold her watch and wedding band. And he kept writing letters to her sister in Sheffield up to early January, claiming that rheumatism had prevented her from writing.
Arthritis?
I think it's like a more severe form of arthritis. On January 8th, 1953, Christie sold most of his furniture. He kept 3 chairs, a kitchen table, and a mattress to sleep on. And on the February 2nd, he forged his wife's signature on her bank account and emptied it.
Of course he did.
After early...
I hate this guy.
I know, right? What a scumbag.
I hate obviously murders, but thieves make me so mad.
Especially after you just killed them, and then you're gonna go forge their signature and then take everything they had.
There's a case I'm gonna do, so I can't tell you the name of it, but it's a case where this person kills this other person and they use the other person's credit card for like weeks until it gets declined afterward, and then he just tosses it in the trash. It's like, you killed this person, then you're gonna drain their bank account buying yourself some French fries? Are you kidding me?
Hell yeah.
Ugh.
And those must be some really good French fries.
So scummy. Hate it. I don't know what it is about thievery, especially after you kill somebody, but it's not yours. You didn't work for that. Like, come on.
Well,
anyway.
After early February, Christie no longer bothered to answer the letters from relatives inquiring after his wife. Between January 19th and March 6th of 1953, Christie murdered 3 more women he invited back to 10 Rillington Place. Kathleen Maloney from Southampton, Rita Nelson, and Hectorina McLennan. Names are hard for me, man.
McLennan.
Christie claimed that McLennan had wandered off and kept up the pretense for 2 weeks, asking her boyfriend, Alex Baker, how she was. Baker presumed she had gone back to her native Scotland.
He just loves it. You can tell. He enjoyed... Oh, I'm so mad.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. Christie moved out of 10 Rillington Place on the 20th of March, 1953. He defrauded a couple who took up residence by taking €7 from them, although he was not authorized by the landlord of the property to do so.
Nope.
So it was just like,
he's a scummy
there's a
thief.
$7 fee. Thanks.
Side note, I just realized like 2 seconds ago that it's Rillington and not Willington.
Yeah, Rillington.
I just realized. I was like,
wow. After how many times we said it?
I know. I just always thought that you said it Willington, but weird. I thought you were just saying like...
No, Rillington.
Yeah, so the $7, some guy walks up to your house, never seen him before. He says there's a €7 fee for whatever.
But you want to hear something even worse? After he took the €7 from him, they were actually forced to move out within 24 hours. The day he left Rillington Place, Christie booked a room at the King's Cross Roten Houses under his real name and address.
Bro.
He asked for 7 nights, but only stayed for 4, leaving on March 24th, 1953.
Hate this dude.
Like, could you imagine? Hey, there's a $7 fee. Oh, sorry. Gotta leave.
That sucks.
It's messed up, dude. A few days later, a new tenant discovered the bodies hidden in a wallpapered over coal cellar in the kitchen. Pathological
Isn't
tests.
that where they found... Oh, yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, that's where they found, pretty much everybody. Yeah. Other than Geraldine and...
But that's where they found his wife, right? In the wall?
No, they found her in... or we mean Christie's wife or Timothy Evans?
Christie.
Yeah, Christie, that's where they found his wife.
In the wall?
In the wall.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Pathological tests later revealed carbon monoxide in their bodies. He called the police and a nationwide manhunt ensued on March 25th. 3 days later, Christie telephoned the News of the World and arranged to meet a reporter, offering an exclusive interview.
Narcissism is a disease of which...
But he said he would allow himself to be handed over to the police in exchange for this interview.
Bro, I hate this dude.
Well, here's the thing. The meeting never took place because Christie was frightened by the arrival of 2 policemen as he waited to meet the reporter.
What did you expect to happen?
Right?
They were going to make sure that you didn't run after the interview. Are you kidding me? Ugh.
After he left Roten House, Christie wandered all over London, sleeping on park benches at night. The search for him ended on the morning of March 31st when he was arrested near the embankment at Putney Bridge after being challenged about his identity by a policeman. When asked what his name and address were, he said, John Waddington, 35 Westbourne Grove. He was then asked to remove his hat. The policeman recognized him and asked, "You are Christie, aren't you?" Christie then confirmed that he was.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, all right, fine, you got me. Didn't even try to put up a fight after that. When arrested, he had with him his identity card, a ration book, his union card, an ambulance badge, and an old newspaper clipping about the remand of Timothy Evans.
Ugh.
The fact that he kept a piece of newspaper about that specific case.
I told you, he enjoyed that thoroughly.
Oh, yeah.
He loved that. Also, where did he get the badge for an ambulance badge? Like a medic badge? Like he was posing as a medic, maybe?
It's a possibility.
Where did he get that? All right.
Probably one of his many different jobs.
He thieved it. That's what happened.
The next day, he was charged with his wife's murder. On April 15th, he was charged with murdering the 3 prostitutes.
Good.
And while in prison, Christie confessed to murdering all the women found in the cellar as well as Beryl Evans. He never admitted to killing Geraldine Evans. It's the narcissist. Which he did, but...
Yeah, he did it, but he wanted the control.
Yep.
How many people is that? That's...
I believe it was a total of 8.
Okay.
He was interviewed after the trial by John Scott Henderson, the recorder of Portsmouth, who had been placed in charge of an inquiry into the case by David Maxwell Fyfe, their serving Home Secretary. Mm. Christie's trial began on the 22nd of June, 1953, in the same court where Evans had been tried, and he was on trial solely for the murder of his wife. That's it. Christie pleaded insanity and claimed to have a poor memory of the events.
Okay, buddy.
The jury rejected the plea.
Good.
And after 22 minutes, found him guilty of murdering his wife.
Oh, even less time than Evans. It's beautiful. Evans. All right. It's still messed up that they convicted Timothy, but
yeah,
at least there's that.
So on June 29th, Christie said he would not appeal against the death sentence.
Sure, he wouldn't.
Fyfe said on July 13th that he would not grant a reprieve because there was no physical or psychological grounds for doing so. Some MPs tried to postpone the execution so that Christie could talk more about the earlier murders, but Maxwell Fyfe refused to grant this. Christie himself refused in the final days of his life to meet MPs in his cell. He was hanged by Albert Pierrepont at Pentonville Prison on the same gallows as Timothy Evans.
By the same guy. Yeah, I remember that.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
While Christie neither confessed to nor was convicted of killing Geraldine Evans, public opinion wildly considered him guilty, casting doubt onto the fairness of Evans' trial and execution.
Because Timothy Evans didn't do anything wrong.
Oh yeah, 100%. To date, there exists no definitive evidence to prove or disprove Evans' innocence or Christie's guilt in Geraldine's murder. Although the Brabant inquiry, conducted during 1965 to 1966, concluded that Evans had probably killed his wife but not his daughter, even though it was the exact opposite. Christie admitted to killing the wife but not the daughter. Anyway.
So stupid.
But Timothy Evans was granted a posthumous pardon in 1966. Yeah. So I guess there's that. We made a oopsies.
No, we didn't make an oopsies, but because you guys are upset about it, we'll give you that.
Fine. You know?
Ugh.
In 1970, the movie 10 Rillington Place was released, based largely on Kennedy's book starring Richard Attenborough as Christie and John Hurt as Evans. Huh. Parts of the film were shot in Rillington Place itself, renamed Ruston Close after Christie's execution, using a similar neighboring gaslit property shortly before the entire street was cleared for redevelopment.
Oh, okay.
The street, now completely redeveloped, has a garden area in the space where the building of number 10 should be. 10 Ruston Close began a ground floor flat to the right of that garden.
Interesting.
The protagonist of the 2004 novel 13 Steps Down by Ruth Rendell is obsessed with Christie, going as far as to refer to him as Reggie in his head. So that's just kind of like some pop culture things about this case.
Yeah.
Now we'll kind of get more in depth about Mr. Christie and his family.
Let's do it.
At the same nondescript 3-story house in a cul-de-sac in London's Notting Hill, North Kensington, 2 different murderers were arrested and prosecuted.
Yeah.
Both were executed for their crimes. There was only one. And some people think that justice was done, while others believe that one innocent man went to the gallows.
Smart people know.
Set up by the other who got away with murder.
Yeah.
At least he got away with that one. Until he confessed, that is. But the other man had confessed too. Who was the real killer?
It was Christie.
It was Christie. The authors who most strongly represent opposite sides of this tale are John Eddowes and his The Two Killers of Rillington Place and Ludovic Kennedy in 10 Rillington Place. Eddowes believes that neither man is innocent, and Kennedy is certain that one of them is. The most famous of these suspects was John Reginald Halliday Christie. In 1938, he had moved into the ground floor flat of 10 Millington Place with his wife, Ethel, and their dog and cat, which gave them exclusive use of the back garden.
Oh, that sucks. He's so greedy.
The small Victorian house was the end house located against the factory wall. From there, they could hear the trains and see factory chimneys spouting smoke. 2 other flats as small as theirs occupied the upper floors. One outhouse in the garden served for all 3, as there was no bathroom on the premises. There was also a common wash house, although it was not always in working order. Christie was a quiet, inconspicuous man.
Mm-hmm.
His hair was a reddish ginger color and his eyes were pale blue. He had an enormous forehead. That's actually in the notes. Just want you to know that. Literally, quote for quote, he had an enormous forehead.
I love that.
Christie's wife.
Wait, did we look up a picture?
We did.
Oh, yeah, because he had that crazy eyes picture.
Yeah.
That was him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember now.
Christie's wife was plump, big-boned, sentimental, and passive.
Big-boned.
People who knew them believed she was afraid of Christie and did whatever he said. The Christies considered themselves to be better than their neighbors, and so they maintained their privacy. They seemed a quiet, pleasant couple, just 2 ordinary people who were devoted to each other and to their dog and cat. Originally from Yorkshire, Christie was rather high-strung, and he generally relieved stress by gardening and murdering. His father had been a severe man who whipped his children whenever he felt like it. He also made them take long walks in a marching style, and while his father withdrew from his son's frailty, Christie's mother held him close. He was her favorite. She emasculated him with overprotection. His 4 older sisters reinforced this feminine influence, but they dominated him. Christie retreated inside himself, although he learned to exaggerate symptoms of poor health to attract attention. He also developed a horror of dirt. Christie never made friends in any lasting way, although he did well in school and got along. He participated in church activities, including becoming part of the choir. He also played sports and became a scoutmaster. He liked putting on, his uniform. When he was 8, his maternal grandfather died. Christie was asked if he wanted to see the body, which was laid out for a wake. He said that he did, and when he went to look at the man who previously had frightened him, he felt pleasure at the lack of tension he now felt. This experience fascinated him. He began to play in the graveyard and seemed especially taken with the broken vault that housed children's coffins.
He's so gross.
He liked to look inside the cracks.
Yeah, I bet he did. Ugh.
Sexually, he was inhibited. He had first been disturbed at the age of 10 by seeing one of his older sister's legs up to the knee, a sister he resented. Ooh. I mean, back then that was kind of scandalous.
A knee.
A knee. But in Christie's case, it exaggerated an already tense situation. He had always resented his sisters bossing him about, and now, to add salt to his wounds, he found himself physically attracted to them. He both loved and hated them because they aroused his masculinity and then stifled it. And this went on day after day, month after month, year after year. There must have been many occasions when he thought of his grandfather and wished them all dead. And this was from Kennedy, one of the people who thought there's one guilty.
Yeah. Well, it was Christie.
Ludovic Kennedy makes the case that Christie developed a deep hatred of women, especially those who tempted him, because he knew he could not satisfy them. He also feared them, and these feelings merged into a repressed, murderous rage. While the other boys, he boasted that girls liked him, but he soon earned the nicknames Can't Make It Christie and Reggie No Dick.
Yeah.
Leaving school at the age of 15, he worked as a projectionist in a movie theater. Then World War I arrived, and he entered the service as a signalman, becoming quite good at detailed work. He saw action once when a mustard gas shell knocked him unconscious and temporarily blinded him, although Kennedy points out that there is no record of this blindness in existence. He also lost his voice and remained silent for over 3 years. Physicians determined this to be a hysterical reaction rather than a real physical malady. Yeah. Quite simply, he was just afraid. After that, he exaggerated his illness to avoid unpleasant situations.
Yeah, okay.
He left the army, returned to his job, then he became a clerk. In 1920, he married Ethel Simpson Waddington, despite being mostly speechless.
She probably liked a quiet man.
Maybe. But his sexual difficulties continued, and Ethel did nothing to help matters.
It's not her job to help you feel better. Well, I guess, yeah. If you're in a relationship, you guys should hype each other up. But,
Yeah. Christie had frequented prostitutes since the age of 19. Although these women made no demands, they nevertheless humiliated him by reminding him of his inability with regular women. So people he was seeking out reminded him how much he sucks at getting women.
I'm glad he suffered.
Yeah. But yet, even after he was married, he did not stop patronizing them.
Yeah.
Early in their marriage, Christie became a postman. He stole some postal orders and was sent to prison for 3 months. After returning home, his voice returned during a temper tantrum inspired by his father. Then he lost it again. After 6 months of silence, he once again was able to speak. A lot of this is just going to be recycled information, but a bit more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
If you've heard this before, I know. It's
fine.
Going into a little bit more detail about this guy and how just absolutely horrific and stupid he was.
Because he is.
At the age of 25, he was put on probation at the post office for charges of violence. Also, stories circulated that he was frequenting prostitutes. He left his wife and went to London. She remained in Sheffield and got a job as a typist. 4 years later, Christie was imprisoned again, this time for 9 months on 2 charges of theft. Afterward, he went through a series of jobs and lived with a prostitute. Always comes back to those prostitutes.
It's so weird that he lived with her.
Yeah,
was he trying to be a pimp or something?
I don't know. I just want to know how that worked. Hey, can I live with you?
Yeah.
If you pay me. All right. So this is when it gets a little violent. He hit her over the head with a cricket bat and returned to prison for another 6 months. He was suspected of violence against other women, but lack of evidence prohibited an arrest. His life was still without direction when he got out.
There is no justice.
There is no justice. Thus, a few years later, he was arrested again when he stole a car from a priest who had tried to help him. He then asked Ethel to come and live with him after he came out of prison. After being separated for almost 10 years, Ethel rejoined her husband in London in 1933. She was 35 and lonely, but she had no idea what kind of person she was about to move in with. She agreed to become his wife again.
Okay.
Soon, Christie was hit by a car and had to be hospitalized. Kennedy indicates that this incident happened as soon as he arrived in London, but in any case, it had the same effect. This began a long stage of hypochondria. Christie stayed home a lot with the excuse of his many ailments and visited 2 doctors for a total of 173 times over the course of 15 years.
Dang.
Little crazy.
Yeah.
At this time, political events that set the stage for World War II had created some turmoil in London, and Christie signed up as a volunteer member of the War Reserve Police. They made no inquiries about his past record, which would surely have barred him from service, and he received his uniform as a special constable for Harrow Road Police Station. He remained there for 4 years, probably the happiest of his life. Finally, having some sense of purpose, he became almost fanatical about upholding the law, and he eventually acquired the nickname the Himmler of Rillington Place.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little crazy.
Yeah, it's a little that's a little much.
Yeah. But, he likes his control in weird ways. Yeah. So he enjoyed the authority he had and loved wearing his uniform. He also used the position to follow women, the notes of which he kept for many years. Yeah.
He kept notes on them?
He kept notes on women he would follow as a police officer. He also liked to watch his neighbors, and he did so by making a peephole into his kitchen door, and he ran down every transgressor, no matter how petty the crime.
I mean, okay, but
seems a little annoying.
If people are out there messing with your stuff, I get that. That's fine. But it's kind of weird that you're watching that often and for that long that you can.
Yeah, but I just think that's a bit much.
Oh, it is, because this guy is excessive to the fullest extent.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But thoroughly self-involved, he began to take advantage of his wife's frequent visits to her relatives, and he found women who responded to his advances.
Mm.
It was during this time that he developed a taste for peculiar sexual activities, as we'll call it.
Yeah.
He developed a relationship with a woman who worked at the police station and whose husband was in the war overseas. While Ethel was away, Christie was to be found at this woman's house. When the husband unexpectedly returned, he found evidence enough of his wife's infidelity to file for divorce, naming Christie as co-respondent.
Yeah.
He also caught Christie in the house, gave him a severe beating, and threw him out.
I'm so happy he did that.
It was after that Christie began inviting women to his own home.
Well, they can't find me in bed with their wives if I'm not there.
Exactly. Now only your wife can come home and find you in bed with another woman. But anyways.
Not that she would do anything about it.
She wouldn't.
She should have just left him forever.
You know, people are weird. Now we'll get into a bit more about the Evanses.
Okay.
Christie's favorite people.
I hate this guy.
In the spring of 1948, 10 years after the Christies had first began to live there, Timothy Evans and his wife, Beryl, moved into the top flat. They had been married less than a year and were expecting their first child. Beryl was 19 and petite, her husband 24. He drove a van for a living and could barely read. Born in a mining town called Merthyr Vale in South Wales, he was abandoned by his father before he was even born. As a child, he had suffered from uncontrollable tantrums that made things rough at home. When he failed to get along with his mother, who had remarried a man named Probert, he moved in with his grandmother, who could not keep him in school.
What did they name this man?
Probert.
Okay.
Yeah, weird name. Weird name, right? Evans was known as a habitual liar, prone to self-aggrandizing fantasies, with an IQ around 70, borderline retarded. Quote.
Yeah.
Having suffered an injury to his foot that put him into the hospital numerous times, he ended up getting little education. As an adult, he drank a lot and had a violent temper. He grew to only 5'5", weighing in just under 140 pounds.
A wee lad.
But here's the thing. They actually say that his height and weight may have fueled his volatile temper.
What is it? Napoleon syndrome?
Napoleon syndrome. He was described as a runt, and for the rest of his life, his intellect remained that of a boy of 11. His best talent appeared to be his ability to lie, and he did so quite imaginatively. He even told people that his father was an Italian count. As his mother put it, quote, he didn't have any real confidence in himself and had to lie to cover up. He met Beryl Thorley through a mutual friend who arranged a blind date. Within weeks, they were engaged and just as quickly were married. They lived for a while with Evans' mother, and Beryl developed a close relationship with his two sisters. They thought she was almost as immature as their brother, so they helped her however they could. She had no mother herself, so she looked to them for security. Nevertheless, when Beryl got pregnant, the accommodations could not bear the extra person, so the young couple moved to Rillington Place. Evans' sister, Eileen, actually found the flat for them and helped them to furnish and decorate it.
Nice.
Her memory of their neighbor, Red Christie, indicates that he might have had dangerous intentions toward her. He came into the flat one day without her hearing him and suddenly appeared at her side with a cup of tea.
Ugh.
She declined it, but he made no move to leave.
Ugh.
Yeah. Finally, she told him her brother would soon be back, and he left as suddenly as he'd come in. She later learned what sharing tea with women meant to him. Evans' mother.
Yeah.
Just
stop being creepy.
Yeah, honestly, like
there's ways to not be the person that you are. Be somebody else.
Just.
If you get an urge to walk up to a lady, say you want a cup of tea, she says no, and then you stand there, ignore that urge.
Just turn around and leave. Evans' mother, Miss Probert, wanted them to move into a different apartment on the ground floor, but Beryl resisted the idea. She wanted to stay right where they were. When the baby arrived, the Evanses named her Geraldine. Her birth put a strain on the marriage, since Tim's meager wages could not quite cover the bills. In addition, Beryl turned out to be a poor housekeeper and cook. She even neglected the baby at times.
Oh.
They frequently fought, even striking one another. In August of 1949, Beryl invited a friend of hers, Lucy Endicott, to stay with them. It was Beryl's impression that her husband was going to work for a company overseas, but that turned out not to be true. Lucy was 17. She shared a bed with Beryl while Tim was forced to sleep on the kitchen floor. However, the girl had other ideas, and she soon came between them. Weird how that works.
I'm shocked.
While she ended up in the middle of their arguments, some of which were violent, she attracted Tim's eye. When his mother forced her out, Tim threatened to throw Beryl out a window.
What?
He then followed Lucy to another flat. Apparently, the girl found him to be too violent, for he soon returned home to his wife. He went around to friends, however, threatening to do some harm to the girl.
Okay.
So, like I said, he didn't really help.
I mean, he's not a great guy, but I don't believe he killed anybody.
I don't think so.
So,
in debt and then unable to get along, Tim and Beryl moved into a rather sordid existence. She allegedly told Miss Christie that Tim had attempted to strangle her. To her horror, Beryl soon discovered she was pregnant again. She blamed her husband. I feel like it's both of your fault.
It is both of their faults.
So, Beryl tried to take some pills and use douches to be rid of the baby. But Tim could not see what the fuss was all about. He did not understand that Beryl wanted to continue to work part-time so they could pay their mounting bills. She was determined to seek an abortion, and she told everyone about it, including the Christies.
Mm-hmm.
Around this time, Christie had complained about the condition of the building, and several workmen came on October 31st to rip up some of the walls and floors. They also worked on the community wash house in the rear of the building. In addition, the second floor tenant, Mr. Kitchener, had gone into the hospital, so his apartment was empty for about 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And in early November, the disaster occurred. And that's where we're going to end this episode.
All right. The disaster.
So I know that like a lot of that was already information we already knew, but it was a bit more in depth. So there's a bit more.
Some details, yeah.
We'll get into that and some of the different versions of what might have happened that people think.
Spicy details.
The spicy details. But yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this episode. A lot more facts into this one and just a complete trash bag of a human being.
Oh yeah, I hate that guy.
So if you did like this episode, be sure to leave a like, subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Follow us on Spotify. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Only if it's nice.
Or mean, whatever.
You can do the mean ones, but
it's fine.
I'll judge you for it.
We'll judge you. We'll make fun of you. But anyways, follow us on all of our social medias from some little extras, such as pictures and things like that. Find us on our Instagram and Facebook at What Sleep Podcast. And you can find us on Twitter at What Sleep Pod because Twitter is annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a Patreon as well, where you can monetarily support us. Sorry, I was trying to think of a word. Monetarily support us every month for $5 or a custom amount if you so choose.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you do actually get 15% off in our merch store. So definitely check that out. And we appreciate you if you do decide to support us.
100% savings. And we'd appreciate the support.
Yeah.
It helps us a lot.
We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.